Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. We're back with the FIA Pre-Season Manufacturers Championship. It's round 3 at Tsukuba circuit. We're starting this race from P4. We did an okay qualifying. I really felt I should have been in P3. A good lap there by Philo, putting himself in P3. We're in P4 there, you can see a 57.2. When we did our final run on the fresh tyres, I messed up the lap where I gave myself 2 laps to do a lap, and every lap I just made a mistake, which cost me a few attempts. So I really should have been in the 56s, but you know, I was happy with P4. It's another consistent qualifying, and that's where you want to be at the front of the grid. You know, anywhere in the top 5 is acceptable, I think, in these FIA races where you want to just try and get a good haul of points in. So we're driving the Ferrari, obviously. You could see mainly that what I noticed was most of the top cars tended to be the Mitsubishi, which was massively overpowered at this track. You would have seen it on the top 10 stars. It was just way faster than the other cars at this track, and then it was mainly Dodge Vipers that seemed to be competitive at this track. The top like 5 or 6 cars, there was about 3 of them were Dodge Vipers, and I also noticed one Dodge Viper managed to get in the top 10 stars also. So we know it was a fairly good car. My car was actually really nice at this track. It wasn't the fastest in terms of lap time, but it was really consistent and fairly easy to drive. I could get on the power, I could attack the braking zones. It felt like a nice car to be in at this track, so I did enjoy driving this car here. So that's why I was fairly confident in the race. I'd be able to put some really, consistent lap times in and try and make some progress in this race. This was obviously my first time also driving at this track, so I haven't been on the track on this game. I have played on GT5, I think it was, on a couple of races, so I do know the layout, and obviously I did spend an hour or so practicing maybe the day before, and I did 20 minutes the night before as well, because I thought it was that day for some reason. I got the dates mixed up, so we've done a bit of practice. I could see that in the outright qualifying pace wasn't probably as good as some other cars, but I was still fairly confident in the race paces. We're going to move to the TV replay camera for lap 1 as we watch all the cars going away off the start and getting very close together at this really short, very tight track. You know, this track is very hard to overtake, so my main aim is to go aggressive on lap 1 and 2. You know, this is where you've got to make your move really. You know, once people settle into a rhythm on this track, it can be really hard to get past them. As you can see there, Philo in front of us made a little error. We got really close. I could see that he was making a few errors straight away. You know, he went really deep into that corner on the braking zone, so I got really close to him. And then going into this corner now, you're going to see in the braking zone he goes a little bit too deep there. His car goes wide. We're very close now at this stage. I got the power really early, got a little bit of sideways action where I really put the power down because I wanted to get so close. We're going to jump on board now, so we're going to really try and put some pressure on. Looking back at ourselves and with the TV replay camera in that top right hand corner, you can see the action's very close now. You can see I'm getting to go for a different line to these guys through here. I tended to take a very wide line compared to it and get a very strong exit, and we're going to make a move on this right hand side. You can see we're side by side going into the braking zone. We get ourselves ahead, but obviously he does the undercut on the exit of the corner, tries to put the power down. We get on the power, we're side by side at this stage, coming inches away from contact but not making any contact. Going into the corner, I brake as late as I can. We've given him space on that right hand side, and then you can see on the outside I give him plenty of space. He runs a little bit wide. I think he thought I'd give him less space than I did, but we made that move stick, and a nice move to put ourselves up into P3 in this race where it's really hard to overtake. So I was really happy with getting past him there. Let's have a little look how we did that. And like I say, we made sure we got a strong exit off the corner. You can see the pull I got out of that corner. Go to the right hand side straight away to try and make a move. I brake really late, go into the corner as much as I can. He does the undercut, goes on the inside of us. I get on the power really early just to try and get ourselves back alongside. We've got better acceleration now because of getting on the power that little bit earlier. We come so close to touching there, but do not touch. Really respectful driving. And then again here, I give him plenty of space. I think he thought I was going to give him a little less, or maybe his car was just understeering a bit, and we make that move stick. He's still behind us, so in P4, but under attack from Jonas there. You can see Jonas get very close to him again in the braking zone, and now we need to see if we can get any closer to Bam Enzo in front of us. He's 1.6 seconds ahead, so we're not able to get any slipstream at this point, and that's really frustrating. You know, one thing I did want to get was his slipstream, so that it could just help me get a little bit closer on the straights. You know, that Dodge Viper is a fast car down the straights, so one thing I did want to do was try and get as close as I could on the straights to get a bit of pull out of him on the slipstream zone. As you can see now behind us, TNR Philo has been overtaken by Jonas, and Jonas has now got himself into P4 and has obviously wants to get on with this race as well, as Philo seems to be struggling very early on in this race, maybe just struggling a bit with that Dodge Viper. I've not really driven the Dodge Viper at all on this game yet, so I don't really know what it handles like. It seems to be fast through corners, but a little bit trickier compared to the car I'm driving. I really enjoy driving this car. It felt really stable, and you can get such good traction from this corner here. Now it's where you'll see me bringing a little bit of a gap to the guy behind as I get on the power that little bit earlier, and obviously with the traction this Ferrari's got, it kind of acts as a defence mechanism. And then you're coming through this corner, you'll see I take a wider entry point. Look on that view, you can see, look in front of the guy behind, I take a much wider entry than him, and that enables me to get the power earlier going into the later apex, and then it defends the line then into turn 1, which is pretty much one of the only opportunities to make an overtake on this track. There's probably 2 overtaking opportunities, and you have to be very close. So that was really the best way I could do it in terms of defending. Look how close he is. I've got to be defensive. I know that Dodge Viper is a fast car around this track. It tended to be that I think it was the only other car I saw got in the top 10 stars for this track before the race. I think it was dominated by the Evolution, which was out in the lead there in P1. A quite overpowered car here, and then you got the Dodge Viper that was probably the second best car at this track, maybe up there in the top 3 or 4 cars, because obviously a lot of drivers have picked Dodge this season, with it being a fairly competitive car at a lot of the tracks. They've tended to go for that car. I obviously wanted to just go for something a bit different. I've never driven the Ferrari. I know it's a reasonably good car. The GR3 was, it showed its pace in Nürburgring. Very tricky car to drive, but I managed to tame it. And then we've got the GR4 car that I'm driving now. Looking at myself in front there, you can see the action's really close, but I do love this GR4 Ferrari, the Group 4 Ferrari. It's got a lot of traction. It does understeer sometimes, but if you can learn to get rid of that somehow with the throttle, if you just get used to putting the power down, lifting off, and then back on the power, it really is a drivable car that I really like driving. And it's a very well balanced car in terms of it's not going to be particularly strong at any tracks like like an overpowered car like the Evolution is in the lead there, or it's not going to be a massively weak car, where you're going to be struggling at any particular track, because it's got reasonably good acceleration. It's not got the best top speed, but it's not got the worst top speed. So overall, it's a reasonable car, and I'm looking forward to driving at some of the other tracks. We've got, I think Bathurst is coming up. That may be weakish on the straights, but not too weak. And then I feel like it's going to be strong on the downhill section where stability is important. As we're going to jump through to the replay cameras there, as you can see the replay, the TV replay cameras, and you can see there top 4 very close still. P2 is only a fraction ahead of me. Again, I'm just not close enough to get his slipstream, so the Dodge Viper behind me is getting my slipstream. He's getting the benefits of that, and fuel saving if he wants to do any, and he's getting a lot of straight line speed out of myself as well, but I'm just not able to pick up that toe from the car in front, so it's really frustrating for me at this stage of the race. You can see in the distance there, just behind us there, Philo seems to be dropping back quite a bit. He seems to be losing out on this track compared to ourselves. There's definitely a gap building up, probably longer than the gap than it is from myself to the leaders there, so he seems to be struggling a bit. Maybe it's possible that he out-qualified his race pace position a little bit, as he seems to have a little bit of car, a few cars building up behind him, so maybe he's holding them up slightly, and it's giving ourselves a bit of a breathing space from P4 down to P5, and it looks like it's myself and these other 3 cars are in the battle for the win. These are the cars that have got a chance of winning this race. It's going to require something very special from any of us to get past anyone on this track. It's such a tight track, a very twisty track. The mistakes are the things that are going to decide this race, and I'm just trying at the point to keep consistent, but I really want to get in that slipstream. If I can just get into the slipstream of Bam Enzo, it's going to be a massive step in gaining on him, because my Ferrari just struggles that fraction bit on the straights. It's not weak by any means on the straights, but it's not the strongest car when it comes to straight line speed. It'll be interesting to see how it handles at Bathurst. Like I say, I think I said in the previous video, it's probably not going to be the strongest car on the straights, but it's probably not going to be the weakest car. On the stability sections going down the back, the back half of the track downhill, that's where it's going to be very strong. So you can see there, very close action between myself and P4 as he's getting really aggressive and trying to get closer. But again, I go to try and get that good exit, and we give ourselves a 3-4 attempts going into turn 1. So he's not able to make that move. You can see the gap to the P2 is pretty much stable between 1.6 and 2 seconds. I can't seem to make any impression on that. It's been 7 laps, 6-7 laps behind him, and the gap has not changed. It's been, it's 1.7 seconds now. It's not decreased and it's not increased, it's pretty much a stable gap. So this is why it's going to be really hard to make any impression on this race. The interesting part will be coming to the pit stops to see all the different fuel levels, you know, what people have managed to save. I've only really been doing a little bit of short shifting on the odd gear change. You'll notice I'm not revving it out sometimes fully. Some gears I am, sometimes I'm not. I was just trying to do it just as much, you know, gentle saving as I can. You know, this track it's not really a track that you can do massive amounts of saving on, because it's not got like, you know, big massive braking zones. A lot of it is, you know, you're going from like 4th gear to 2nd gear and stuff. You're not doing massive braking zones where you can, you know, put the mixture into 6, you know, when you're in 6th gear flat out. There's no real opportunities to do that on this track, so I've just got to try and drive reasonably aggressive. Aggressive is probably the best way to do most of the time when you're out in the lead anyway. So I've got that one mixture on. I'm not going to be going down to 2, 3 or 4 or nothing. Leaving it on that one mixture and just trying to see if we can catch up to P2. I feel like if I can get in this slipstream, it'll give me that little bit of defense, you know, against the guy behind us, and we can all start closing up together. As you can see, it's still just that 1.6 seconds. It's really frustrating. You know, I am pushing here. I'm trying my hardest to get closer to Bam Enzo in front of us, and you can see how close the guy is behind us. He's just under a tenth, just over a tenth behind us. But again, going through this corner, you're going to see me do that different line. You can see on the mirror behind us, he's going through that corner very tight, but then look at the exit speed. You can see I build it up and it goes up and up and up, and it gives me the cushion going into turn 1 every time. So it looks like I've got that corner pretty much safe. You know, I felt like there was no way that he was going to be able to make an overtake going into that corner. Again, this race is showing why I play GT Sport. You know, the racing is just so good when it's like this. You know, people are being respectful, they're not diving in for random moves. You know, so a lot of drivers are starting to understand now that you just, you know, with the current penalty system, it's not even worth overtaking sometimes. But you know, if an overtake is on, then you will see people do it. But a lot of drivers are just being a lot more respectful and understanding that they're probably going to get a penalty if they try anything, which is a shame. You know, we don't want the races to always be like that, but at least at the moment, you know, it's creating better racing at the front here now. You know, I'm not too sure what other splits are like when you get lower down tiers. I'm guessing the racing is still fairly aggressive, and you're going to get a lot of random dives into corners where people just don't have much racecraft. But in these top split races, when you're racing at the front, the racing is just so equal. It's so hard to even get in a position to make a move, because the cars obviously reasonably well BOP'd now. They're not obviously perfect, but they're getting closer. So to make a move, you've got to be very close, and with everyone's braking points being identical, you know, the top drivers in this race are pretty much identical in terms of lap time. So to be able to make a move is just really hard. You've got to be really brave somewhere and just try and move. You know, that's why on that lap 2 I had to go for a move once I saw an opportunity, because you know, we could have been about 8 seconds further down the road now, 6 seconds further down the road, or you know, I don't know how far FIA was at this point, maybe like 4 or 5 seconds. You know, that could have been a massive impact on our race. You know, but because we made that move, and P4 made that move, Jonas 74 made the move, we're now very close to the leading pack. As you can see there, we're trying to get as close as we can to the driver in front of us. As again, Jonas getting very close, but then again the exit speed, you can see the gap I build up on the exit, and it really does provide me that cushion going into turn 1. And again, you can see, I'm not sure if, I think it's possible that P1 pitted. Yeah, P1 pitted on that lap there. As you can see, he went for a really early pit stop. I think that was lap 11, which is extremely early. You know, that was I think it was the start of lap, so at the end of lap 10. So he's given himself a real uphill struggle for the remaining laps now. You know, to do that amount of laps, I don't know what the evolution's like on its tyres. I think it's going to be struggling a bit no matter what, because even if it's good on its tyres, putting that you know, 15 laps of this track with the tyre wear on, you know, like turn 7 or 8 or whatever it was, it's asking quite a lot. So at this point I was also thinking it's a risky strategy, because there's a high possibility you're going to come out that pits behind maybe P6 or 7, who might not have much race pace. They could be struggling, and if they're doing 57.8 or 58 second laps, you're stuck behind them without being able to get past. It can massively affect your race. But you know, he's gone for that risky strategy. I'm not too sure whether it's going to pay off. You know, we're not too sure if it's going to pay off for him at this stage. The race, I was thinking at this stage I wouldn't have done that move. You know, we're on the start of lap 13 now. This is when most people are going to do their pit stop at the end of lap 13, because you tend to always, when it's an odd number of laps, you tend to always do your longest stint on the first stint. A lot of drivers will do that just in case of getting caught in traffic. So you can see P1, 2 and 3 myself staying out for this lap. We're obviously not pitting on the previous lap, which some people will do to try and gain an advantage. You know, it's a very risky thing to do. You know, obviously that the driver who wasn't in the lead, I think it was the end of lap 11, he actually pitted. As you can see there now, Bam Enzo is going to go in the pits now. He dives into the pits. I'm going to stay out. I just thought I'm going to stay out. We noticed that Bam Enzo had 25% fuel left as he went in the pits. I had 28%. So when I noticed that, I felt more confident now, because I know that they haven't been doing drastic fuel saving. I know that I've actually done reasonably well with my fuel. This GR4, the Group 4 Ferrari seems to be very, very efficient in its fuel saving, and you seem to be able to drive it aggressively without it using massive amounts of fuel. So I was reasonably happy with that, you know, and that's a good thing. You can drive it aggressive and the fuel doesn't just, you know, blitz down. I noticed that as well at the last race with this track. The BMW was using a lot more fuel than this Ferrari, so it seems like a reasonable choice for a good balanced, you know, like selection of tracks. As you can see there, I went really deep into that corner as we were watching it on the TV replay cameras. As I braked a little bit late, I'm trying to push as hard as I can. The tyres are a bit warm, but they still felt reasonable. They were just getting a little bit of understeer on that front left when I was trying to push them in that braking zone there. So we're going to dive on board now. In that middle camera on the top of the screen, we've got Jonas, who is behind us. We're going to ride on board with him as we're going in the pits. Let's see how close this is going to be. You know, you can see on the screen now, he's coming up to that final corner. I'm in the pit lane now. Tyres are getting changed. This is going to be so close as we're coming out the pits. The tyres are going on. He's coming around that final corner. This is, look, you see the fuel's going in. I go slightly over the diamond. I probably put a little bit too much more in. I'm not sure if I went to the diamond exactly. I think it was slightly over, mainly because obviously I wanted to go aggressive, and luckily for us, I think I actually went dead on the diamond there. You can see there we've got 11.2 laps of fuel left, and that's pretty much what we've got to do with, you know, doing lap 15. So we've done the fuel pretty much spot on there, and I think if I would have tried to do the undercut, you know, with the fuel, I didn't want to do that, because to get that advantage over Enzo, we would have had to do 2 seconds shorter on the fuel, and that would have been, you know, more than a lap's worth at this track, and I didn't want to be doing the last, you know, laps defending, and I don't think I would have been able to defend against, you know, a fast Dodge Viper when I've got to save fuel. So luckily we came out ahead of Jonas, which is really good, because now we've got the best tyres out of anyone in this top 4 battle. We know P1 is going to be very, very, you know, it's going to be very, you know, touch and go with his tyres towards the end. We've got Bam Enzo in front of us with a lap over the tyres, but, you know, with the tyre wear on time 7 or 8, or I can't remember exactly what it's on. That's like 7 laps more. So it's really good that we're in this situation now. Still in the same position as we was when we pitted. You know, we're 2.1 seconds behind Bam now. We was like 1.7 or 1.8 or something like that. So we've only lost 4 tenths of a second. Not a massive loss, but we've got them fresher tyres. So and we've also got enough fuel to 100% run flat out to the end. So at this stage, I'm fairly confident, and I was thinking this is looking good for myself. I just really need to try and get rid of, you know, get Jonas out my slipstream, because while he's that close behind me, I'm always paying attention to that the TV screen on my onboard dash there. Always looking in it and checking it out to make sure that he's not in a position to make a move. And again, you can see that different line we take through that corner and the advantage I get on the exit. And again, he's not able to make a move into turn 1. So we've got that covered, and I don't really need to go defensive again, which makes me keep reasonable pace. And that's why I'm able to defend in this car with good pace, because the way the track is, it's very hard to make a move, so you can still keep your pace really well. You don't really lose much at all by defending on this track. You know, if it's a 10th, it's a 10th, but I don't even think it as much as that sometimes. So now on lap 17 to 25, we're 1.9 seconds behind Bam Enzo and 4.9 seconds behind the leader. So let's just keep an eye on them deltas to see what our pace is like, and we'll check that out in a minute as we go back on the onboarders. Now we're going to go through to the TV replay camera and have a watch of the action there. You can see in the distance there how far Philo has dropped back. He's been undercut by the Citroen that's obviously been saving fuel when he was behind him, and trying to get the undercut on him, because he was probably not able to make a pass on this track. It's such a hard track to make a pass on, but I like tracks like that sometimes. You know, it requires a lot of thinking and strategy, and it makes, you know, the decisions on them first few laps to really make a move really important. As you can see there, look at the visual gap. You know, he's probably about 6 seconds behind now at this stage of the race, and on such a short track, you know, that's quite a long way. As you can see now, I've got a little bit of a gap now to that Dodge Viper behind me. I've started to really put some, you know, really trying to get some speed out of this car, this Ferrari. I'm feeling more confident at pushing it. I know I've got the better tyres, and I knew that the lead driver had a penalty as well that he'd have to take. So at this stage, I'm thinking I've got to just go as hard and as aggressive as I can. I've got the fuel, I've got the best tyres out of anyone in the top 4. I've also probably got the better car in terms of its tyre wear and how it drives with the worn tyres. So everything is pretty much in my favour at this stage. As you can see there, going through the corner, you can see the visual gap increasing to the guy behind me, just Jonas behind me, and you can see that I am closing in on that Dodge Viper. It is definitely getting closer, and I'm just trying to push as hard as I can. You can see the car twitching around. I am really trying to get on with this race and make an impression and trying to get more points. You know, I obviously want to get a good amount of points in this race, just then, you know, any sort of decent points in the race is a benefit. But if I could get into that P2, I felt like I could put some pressure onto P1, because I know that he would have been struggling with the tyres, and I know that he's got that penalty. So I was thinking there's an opportunity at a win. You know, as far-fetched as that was, I really was thinking, you know, if I can just get on with this, you know, you never know if you're right behind the car in front, then Bam Enzo, he might make a mistake. You can see the gap. We've got over a second to Jonas now behind us. We're on lap 19. And we've got that gap to the leader down to 4.1, so we've actually gained nearly 1 second on the guy in first place from when we were previously on board. So you can see Bam Enzo also making an impression on the leader. He's a little bit closer. He's 1.6 seconds, 1.7 seconds ahead of ourselves. So his gap is pretty much staying identical still. So myself and Enzo really going for this now and trying to gain on leaders. You can see we go through that first sector on a purple sector, so that was really good to see. I know that I'm now starting to really get on with this and putting some good times in. We're going to go through this corner, really attack it, get on the power as early as I can, and you can see again we're managing to hold off that Dodge and keep it out of slipstream behind us, and we're actually pulling a bit to him. And again, going into this corner, it looks like Bam's starting to see that I'm getting a bit closer. We're now 1.4 seconds behind him, and we're under 4 seconds away from that leader. We're 3.8 seconds behind the lead driver. You know, them tyres that he's had on for them extra laps is starting to show now, and our fresh tyres is really starting to show in terms of our pace. And we're obviously pulling a gap to P4, and we're gaining on everyone else. This is really, I was really starting to think, you know, I've got a chance here of putting some amazing lap times in. You can see our best lap of the race is a 56.9, pretty much identical to the fastest lap by the lead driver. So our race pace has definitely been solid in this race. You can see it's 3.6 seconds to that lead driver now, and 1.3 seconds behind Bam Enzo. This is getting so, you know, I was starting to feel really tense at this point. You know, when you really in the zone, I was starting to get in the zone and just really pushing the car on every corner, using every inch of the track. You can see there, you know, that is a corner that was a really risky corner, and I was pushing. I just wanted to get the best result possible. And you can see there, you know, 1.3 seconds, and still it's getting close to being under 3 seconds to the lead driver. So we just got to keep on with this pace and try our best at getting as close as possible. You know, the more pressure that Enzo can put on the lead driver, the more he's going to struggle with them tyres as well. So I wanted to push Enzo so that he was then going to push the lead driver. You know, that penalty that he's got, we don't know how long. You know, no one would know at this stage how long that penalty was. I didn't know. Bam Enzo won't know exactly what it was unless it was through contact, which I don't think it was. It was probably from a corner cut somewhere. And you can see now 3.2 seconds to the lead driver and just 1.2 behind Bam Enzo. This is getting really close and very tense. 1.4 seconds, we've got the gap to Jonas behind us. So we're managing to put a nice solid gap to Jonas and putting some really solid lap times in. And pushing really hard, but we run really wide there. We lose half a second to the leader. He's already pulled half a second away. I was really frustrated in that. And then on top of that, we not only did we lose time in that anyway, you can see the gap to one second to behind us, it was 1.5, and we lost half a second to leader. We've now got a penalty on top of that, and that frustrates me a bit, because if I'd gained an advantage from that, I would say fair enough, the penalty, but you can't do nothing about it. Maybe it's a bit complicated for them to code that in terms of, you know, based on your best lap delta or something, but we got a 1.4 second penalty for something I don't really feel was deserved penalty. You know, in real life you wouldn't get a penalty for that. You just carry on. There would be no penalty at all, but unfortunately the game gave me a penalty. I tried to get rid of it now. What I really should have done at this stage was just drive as fast as I could to the end and try and get rid of it. But what I was trying to do was just slowly get rid of it so I could hold on to P3, because trying to lose it on this track is so hard, the penalty. If I tried to do it on the finishing line with the driver being I would have had a 1.5 second penalty and he was 1.5 seconds behind me. So it was one of them, and I think if it's 1.5 seconds it just automatically gives you a 2-second penalty. So it was gonna probably, to get rid of that before the line on this track is really hard because of the way the corner is. When you're in corners, for some reason it doesn't want to let you get rid of penalty. Look how much time we lost trying to get rid of that penalty. You can see there now we've got P5 right close, very close behind us. I actually lost, I think I worked it out with the lap deltas and the lap times, we lost nearly 5 seconds trying to get rid of a 1.5 second penalty. And that, I think they need to look at that. It doesn't click in that early enough, the penalty countdown for me. As soon as you lift off on a place where you should be accelerating, it should start decreasing the time penalty. It's really frustrating that it does it like it does, but really I should have probably done it at the end of the race before the finishing line, but I wasn't sure how close it would be to getting rid of it, and I thought it's probably going to lose it anyway. So I tried to do it tactically, losing a little bit by bit by bit over the laps, and it didn't work. So unfortunately we're back down to P4, and I was really frustrated at this point. I was so annoyed at myself because we were gaining, getting closer to Enzo, and we were starting to gain on the leader by 2-3 tenths a lap. And we probably wouldn't have got close enough to make any sort of move on either of them drivers, but we would have been close enough to get in the BAM Enzo slipstream, I felt. As we're going to come through to the final lap now, and you can see on the lap deltas how much time we lost trying to get rid of that penalty. It was a 1.4 second penalty. I did do it probably the worst way I could do it. I hold my hands up. I did that very poor, and I should have really done that better. But when you're in the heat at the moment, you don't think things through properly sometimes. I made a bad decision, and unfortunately I've paid the price now. I feel like I deserved the podium in that race. I have to say I really feel like I deserved P3, but we lost out for a silly mistake. But the annoying thing is I'd already lost out on lap time through making that mistake. It's not like I gained an advantage, and that's why I don't feel like the penalty system in that situation is really right. I feel like there should be some sort of other system in play there when it knows that you've not gained an advantage, because it can see it on your delta. But not much we can do. I have to just take, we're coming home in P4. Luckily we started pulling away from P5. I had the pace to pull away from him. I felt like I had the best pace at the end of this race, obviously with them fresher tyres, and I go over the line. A little bit annoyed with myself, but P4 is not the worst result. It could have been a P3, and we could have been, you can see that Jonas actually finished just under 2 seconds behind BAM, and we had 1.5 seconds. So we would have been getting in BAM's slipstream. I don't think we would have been able to make a move, but it would have been good to put some pressure on. So that result puts me into P7, solid-ish points, just under 1900 points. We're still in P1 in the Ferrari Manufacturers Championship. So overall, not too bad, a reasonably solid result, but again, a little bit frustrated that I made that error. But at least now we've got 3 solid results, and we can start really trying to get a very solid, a really good result in these next 5 races. Hopefully we can get a couple of races where we do really well. A win would be really nice. So anyway guys, thanks again for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed that round. Some more great close racing, and we'll be back with more FIA races, more daily races very soon. Obviously we're uploading videos every single day on GT Sport, and obviously we'll be doing the odd Project Cars 2 and the Setter Corsa video as well. Thanks again for watching everyone. Make sure you sub the channel if you haven't already subbed. Click that notification button so you don't miss any of my daily videos that I upload. Thanks again for watching everyone.